Welcome to the deep dive. So I want you to imagine something. Imagine your boss gives you a generous bonus, remembers your dog's name, and is constantly referring to the team as a family.
Right, the classic corporate family line.
Exactly. But what if I told you a 16th century diplomat warned that this exact boss, the one who wants to be your best friend, is actually the most likely to throw you under the bus the absolute second company profits take a hit?
It's a pretty jarring thought, honestly, because it completely shatters that comforting illusion we have about leadership, right? Which is this underlying assumption that the absolute best way to manage people is to be universally loved.
Yeah, and today we're taking a deep dive into some source material that might honestly change how you look at every boss, every politician, and really every power structure around you.
Oh, absolutely.
We're looking at excerpts from Niccolò Machiavelli's infamous 16th century masterpiece, The Prince, alongside some historical commentary on his life and legacy.
And our mission for this deep dive is to explore one of the most provocative, most debated leadership dilemmas in human history.
Right.
We are unpacking Machiavelli's really uncompromising argument that it is better for a leader to be feared than loved. We'll examine the deep psychological differences between those two states, analyze why human loyalty evaporates during difficult times, and I think this is the most fascinating part, reveal how modern governments and corporations still rely on an underlying architecture of fear.
While meticulously presenting themselves as, like, totally compassionate and trustworthy.
Exactly, the ultimate modern facade.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because right out of the gate, Machiavelli does actually acknowledge the ideal scenario, right? He admits that it would be fantastic for a ruler to be both loved and feared.
Oh, sure. That's the absolute dream for any leader.
Right. It's the gold standard. But he immediately follows that up by stating that combining these two emotions is incredibly difficult, like almost impossible to sustain.
Yeah, they don't really mix well in practice.
No, they don't. And he says if a leader is forced to make a choice between the two, love loses. Every single time.
And the reason love loses comes down to a deeply cynical, yet, highly pragmatic view of human nature.
Which is pretty bleak.
It is bleak. But to understand it, you really have to look at the context of his life. Machiavelli lived through the chaotic, violent shifts of power in Renaissance Florence.
Right, Medici's and all that.
Exactly. He watched the powerful Medici family fall. He saw the Republic rise. He saw the Republic fall. And then he saw the Medici violently return.
Just constant whiplash.
Total whiplash. As a diplomat, he witnessed kings and popes, military captains betraying each other constantly for just momentary advantages. So his view of humanity wasn't formed in some quiet academic vacuum.
Oh, it was forged in a crucible of constant high-stakes betrayal.
Right.
And, he does not mince words in the text either. He describes men, generally speaking, as, I think the quote is, ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous.
He really doesn't hold back.
Not at all. He paints this incredibly stark picture where when danger is far away and times are good, people will offer a leader everything. They literally pledge their blood, their property, their life, and their children.
Yeah, as long as the sun is shining.
Right. But the very moment true adversity approaches, like the moment the leader actually needs that loyalty, the people turn against you.
They scatter.
They totally scatter. He defines love as a mere link of obligation that people will eagerly break whenever it serves their own personal advantage.
Because love, at least in the political or institutional sense, is entirely transactional in his eyes.
Yeah.
It's totally contingent on what the leader can continuously provide.
Reading that, it instantly made me think of human loyalty like a luxury subscription service, or even a fair weather friend.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Like when your personal finances are doing great, you happily stay subscribed to that premium streaming app.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have, makes you feel comfortable. You might even say you love the service.
Sure, you're a loyal customer.
Right. But the absolute second money gets tight and you face a personal financial crisis, it is the very first thing you cancel.
Yep, it's gone.
You don't hesitate. You owe that company nothing. And Machiavelli is essentially saying that your subject's love for you is that premium subscription.
What's fascinating here, though, is the underlying psychology behind why that subscription gets canceled so easily.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, it comes down to a concept psychologists call the locus of control. Love is entirely dependent on the subject's willpower, right? Their current mood, their goodwill.
Okay, yeah.
Which means the locus of control is external to the leader. As a ruler, you cannot control whether someone truly loves you or remains loyal to you. They hold all the cards.
They can just revoke that affection at any time.
For literally any reason, and then you are left completely powerless.
Wow. So you've basically handed them the remote control to your own authority.
Exactly. Fear, however, shifts that locus of control entirely back to the leader.
Because you're the one holding the remote now?
Yeah. Right, because fear is controlled by the leader's ability to inflict consequences. You never have to wake up and hope your subjects fear you today.
Right. You don't need them to be in a good mood for fear to work.
Exactly. You manufacture and maintain that fear through strict, predictable rules and the undeniable power to punish.
So it's much more stable.
It is. A wise leader, Machiavelli argues, must establish themselves on what is in their own control, not in the control of others.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, building a foundation on someone else's fickle emotions is like building a castle on sand. But building on your own ability to enforce consequences, that is building on bedrock.
Okay, so we established that love is an unreliable bedrock, and a leader must, pivot to fear.
Right.
But there is a massive practical problem with this. Doesn't a regime built purely on the threat of punishment just exhaust the people living under it? Because, how can a leader sustain constant fear without it naturally curdling into hatred over time? If my boss manages me purely through terror, I'm not just scared. I actively hate them, and I will sabotage them the first chance I get.
And that is the pivotal nuance in Machiavelli's architecture of fear. He draws a massive, crucial distinction that, honestly, many aspiring tyrants totally miss.
That is.
Being feared is necessary, but being hated is absolutely fatal.
Wait, fatal?
Yes, because hatred is the one emotion that overrides fear. When people hate you, they stop caring about the consequences, and they just start plotting your downfall.
Okay, so how do you thread that needle then? How do you maintain enough fear to keep people in line, but stop short of making them hate you?
By respecting absolute boundaries.
Boundaries, okay.
Yeah, Machiavelli states that fear is preserved by a dread of punishment which never fails. It has to be consistent, it has to be structural, but a leader avoids hatred by keeping their hands off the property and the women of their subjects.
He is very specific about that.
Yeah, very explicit about this line in the sand. As long as you don't touch their personal wealth or violate their family honor, the vast majority of people will live contentedly under your rule.
There is a quote in the sources that actually made my jaw drop because it is so dark, yet it highlights exactly what you're saying here.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
He writes, "Men more quickly forget the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony."
Yeah.
That's a heavy word, patrimony.
Meaning their inheritance, their estate, their financial livelihood.
It's just wild to think about.
It is one of his most chilling lines, honestly, because it cuts straight to the core of human self-interest.
Yeah.
He's pointing out that you can execute a man's father for treason, and the son will grieve, but eventually the son will move on with his life.
But if you touch the money...
Exactly. If you confiscate the family farm, if you take their money and their means of survival, that son and his children will harbor a multi-generational vendetta against you. Hatred is born from arbitrary personal violation. Fear is born from a predictable system of rules.
He also mentions a fascinating tactical rule about how to apply punishment versus reward to avoid generating that hatred.
By the timing of it.
Yeah. He says that any necessary cruelty should be inflicted all at once. Like if you have to consolidate power or eliminate threats, do all the terrible things immediately so they are tasted less.
Taste the pain all at once.
Right. But benefits, rewards, those should be handed out little by little over a long period so the flavor of them lasts longer.
Think of it like a controlled demolition versus a slow, structural collapse.
Okay, I like that.
If a leader demolishes a building all at once, it's a terrifying shock. The dust settles, people accept the new reality of the skyline, and they immediately start rebuilding their lives around it.
So that's inflicting cruelty all at once.
Exactly. But if bricks randomly fall from the ceiling every single day for a year, people live in a state of paralyzing, hateful dread. They can never settle.
That sounds like a nightmare workplace.
Right. If a corporation does a mass layoff on a single Friday, the survivors are traumatized, but they eventually settle back into a rhythm of fear and compliance.
But if they do it slowly?
Yeah, if the company fires one person every week for 52 weeks, it ferments into absolute hatred for management.
Okay, but wait, I have to challenge this reliance on fear, even if it's executed perfectly, like a controlled demolition?
Go for it.
Look at modern tech giants or, progressive startups. They famously use flat hierarchies, limitless vacation days, and extreme leniency to foster innovation and loyalty.
Sure, the ping pong tables and free lunches.
Exactly. It seems like love and leniency do actually work. You don't need a controlled demolition when you have all those perks.
Well, they work when profits are soaring and the economic climate is perfect.
Ah, fair point.
Machiavelli would argue that sort of leniency is a peacetime luxury. It is untested.
Untested.
Yeah. To prove what happens when leniency faces actual grueling adversity, he points directly to antiquity, specifically comparing two of the greatest generals in history, Hannibal and Scipio.
Ah, right. Carthage versus Rome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hannibal led an enormous, massive army composed of countless different races, languages, and factions into foreign lands for years.
And it was brutal conditions.
Over the Alps with elephants, right. Yet, through good fortune and terrible, freezing adversity, there was never a single dissension or mutiny among his troops.
Which is kind of unbelievable when you think about it.
It's incredible, and Machiavelli attributes this cohesion entirely to Hannibal's inhuman cruelty and his boundless valor. His soldiers revered his skill, but they were absolutely terrified of the consequences of crossing him.
So the fear kept them in line.
The fear kept a wildly diverse group completely unified when the environment was hostile.
Okay, and then there's Scipio.
Right. Scipio was considered an incredibly excellent moral man, loved by many.
The anti-Hannibal.
Exactly. But he possessed what Machiavelli calls too great forbearance. He was overly lenient with his troops.
And what happened?
Well, the result was his soldiers were given so much license that they actually rebelled against him in Spain. He was even called out publicly in the Roman Senate by Fabius Maximus as a corrupter of the military because his lack of strict consequences bred absolute chaos.
You know, think about the last time you had a substitute teacher in grade school. Or maybe a manager who desperately wanted to be your best friend.
Oh, yeah.
You probably liked them. You might even love them. But you also instinctively knew you could get away with murder.
Because there were no real consequences.
Exactly. The lack of boundaries breeds chaos. And when things get stressful, that team just falls apart.
Strict, predictable consequences create a stable, secure environment where people know exactly where the lines are drawn. Unpredictable leniency breeds entitlement and rebellion.
Okay, I see that. But there's a glaring flaw in relying purely on fear.
What's that?
Enforcing absolute dread is energetically and financially exhausting. I mean, a leader who is constantly wielding the sword will eventually tire out or bankrupt the stages paying for the swords to keep everyone in line.
That's a very real problem.
So how does a ruler maintain this architecture of fear without draining their own resources?
Well, they have to build a facade. They have to master optics.
Optics?
Yeah. And this is where Machiavelli transitions from a strategist of brute force to a master of public relations. He introduces the metaphor of the centaur.
Chiron, right. The centaur from Greek mythology, half man, half beast.
Yes. Machiavelli argues that a successful leader must know how to use the nature of both the beast and the man.
Okay.
When the laws of men, diplomacy, fairness, justice are not enough to maintain order, a leader must be prepared to use the force of the beast. But even within the nature of the beast, he breaks it down further.
How so?
You cannot just be one type of animal. You must be both the lion and the fox.
Oh, right. He says a leader must be a lion to terrify the wolves, but a fox to recognize the traps.
Exactly.
The lion represents raw power and intimidation, and the fox represents cunning, deception, and stealth. So if you are only a lion, say a CEO, who just screams at everyone and uses blunt force, you'll walk right into a trap. You'll get sued or ousted by the board because you totally lack subtlety.
You're just a wrecking ball.
Exactly. But if you're only a fox, you can't fight off a pack of wolves when they eventually surround you. You really need both.
And part of being the fox is mastering that facade of compassion to reduce the energetic cost of ruling.
Like pretending to be the good guy.
Precisely. A leader must appear merciful, faithful, humane, upright, and above all, religious or morally pure.
Appear being the key word.
Exactly. You don't actually have to possess these qualities. In fact, Machiavelli argues that truly possessing them and always acting on them is incredibly dangerous because it restricts your options when you need to be ruthless.
Wow.
But appearing to have them is absolutely vital.
He writes, men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand.
Yes.
Meaning, everyone can see what you appear to be from a distance, but very few people ever get close enough to touch you and realize what you actually are.
And those few who do get close enough to see the reality, the inner circle who knows you are ruthless, they won't dare oppose the opinion of the majority.
Because the majority is backing the leader.
Right, especially when the majority is backed by the majesty of the state. As long as the results are good, as long as the state is secure and prosperous, the vulgar masses will always justify the means.
They will gladly consume the illusion.
They want to believe the illusion.
The historical examples he brings up to prove this are just wild, too. He talks about Pope Alexander VI, claiming this man did literally nothing but deceive people his entire life.
Oh yeah, Alexander is a prime example.
He would swear massive, sacred oaths to secure an alliance and then completely ignore those oaths the second he had the advantage.
No hesitation.
None. But his deceptions always worked perfectly because he fundamentally understood that mankind is easily taken in by appearances. He just played on their greed and their desire to believe in his moral authority.
Machiavelli also references Ferdinand of Aragon, the king of Spain at the time. He describes him as a leader who never preaches anything else but peace and good faith. And to both, he is most hostile.
Talk about a hypocrite.
Oh, massive. Ferdinand used the cloak of religion to justify devastating military campaigns. He was always projecting this image of a pious, moral crusader to the public, while acting with absolute ruthless pragmatism behind closed doors.
So he was the fox.
He was the ultimate fox. If Ferdinand had actually practiced the peace he preached, he would have lost his kingdom many times over. The illusion of morality was his shield.
It's the ultimate PR strategy. I mean, you do whatever is necessary to survive behind the scenes. You use the lion and the fox, but you hire a brilliant marketing team to make you look like a saint to the public.
Exactly.
And reading the introduction to these sources, the commentators point out how heavily this applies to our modern world. We might like to think we've evolved beyond 16th century Italian politics, but the core mechanics of power haven't changed a bit.
Not even slightly. Modern governments, massive corporations, and complex institutions still rely heavily on material forces and the threat of consequences to maintain order.
Right.
They just changed the vocabulary.
Yeah, the fear isn't a literal sword or an execution block in the town square anymore.
Thankfully.
Right, thankfully. But it's the fear of job loss. It's the fear of legal action, like a lawsuit ruining your life. It's the fear of being deactivated by an algorithm if you're in the gig economy.
Yeah.
It's the fear of social ruin or financial destitution. That is the modern dread of punishment that never fails.
Yet look at how these exact same institutions present themselves to the public.
They wrap themselves in a modern equivalent of moral virtue.
Completely. Corporations issue press releases about their core values, their community impact, their unyielding commitment to human rights.
Oh, absolutely.
Politicians weave these intricate narratives of deep compassion and empathy. They are projecting the exact facade Machiavelli recommended 500 years ago.
It's kind of spooky.
It really is. They ensure the consequences for crossing them are severe and structural, but they make sure their public-facing branding is entirely benevolent. They are playing the fox perfectly.
You know, I want you, listening right now, to view your own world through Machiavelli's lens for a moment. Look at the power structures you interact with every single day.
Just take a good look around.
Look at your workplace, your local HOA board, your local government, the global institutions whose apps you use constantly. How often do you see those entities relying on the dependable bedrock of consequences, that underlying architecture of fear, while meticulously projecting the image of a merciful, humane guide?
Think about a company mandating a strict return to the office.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
Right. Is it framed in the memo as an absolute order backed by the threat of termination? Rarely.
Never.
It is almost always framed as a compassionate desire for team collaboration, fostering culture, and water cooler synergy.
Synergy. Always synergy.
Always. The mechanics are fear and control, but the optics are love and community. Machiavelli would applaud the execution.
Or think about gig economy apps that track a driver's every single movement and punish them for declining rides. But they market themselves purely as offering freedom and flexibility.
Exactly. The lion is in the algorithm, and the fox is in the marketing department.
It really makes you second-guess every corporate memo and political speech you hear. You start instinctively looking for the lion hiding behind the fox's PR campaign.
Which is exactly why The Prince remains so highly relevant and so deeply controversial today.
Yeah.
It strips away the comforting illusions we cling to about leadership and exposes the raw, honestly, often uncomfortable wiring of how humans actually organize, manipulate, and maintain power over one another.
It brings us right back to that shattered image we started with at the top of this deep dive.
The boss who says we're a family.
Right. We all want the superhero of empathy. We want the X-ray precision of knowing exactly who is good and who is bad in the world. But in the muddy, complex waters of leadership, maybe the good leader isn't the one who genuinely loves you. Maybe the most stable, secure environments are actually built by leaders who know exactly how to use fear and deception while merely pretending to be moral.
It really forces you to question the very nature of authority and what we actually demand from the people who govern us.
It really does. And I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to mull over on your own as you go about your day.
Let's hear it.
If Machiavelli is right, if the most enduring, stable power relies on a foundation of fear, dressed up in a convincing costume of compassion, does genuine, purely ethical leadership actually exist anywhere in the world?
That's the million-dollar question.
Or is anyone we consider a truly good moral leader just a supremely talented fox who hasn't been caught yet?